So speaking of things that are good for us, we are moving into our lightning talks. And up first is our very favorite panda. His Google image is actually a panda. Travis Sobek to talk about IT access control. Where's the mouse?
Just like a hand mic, presumably. Hello, everyone. Before I actually go into my short talk, kind of a follow-up. By show of hands, how many other people have a BA in mathematics? I expect a couple here. So of you, how many of you have spent a lot of time trying to explain to other people exactly what a BA in mathematics is? And how after a certain point in time, there are no more numbers. It's just a symbol system. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Travis Sobek. I work in OIT, currently on the infrastructure team. And so what I want to do is really just give everyone a brief introduction into a new project that I'm running so that you have some sort of context. So if you hear iTech at some point, you'll have a vague idea of what it is. Basically, the idea behind this project is to offer more self-service to the rest of IT at the University of Minnesota. This is essentially kind of a follow-up to the SESI project. The SESI project really was good at organizing units, defining communication channels to those IT units, and starting to build reporting back to those units. So what iTech is going to do is sort of extend that and help us build more automation and hopefully more self-service to the rest of the U. It will also help us build better reporting back to you so that we can work with you to figure out what assets from OIT do you have, how much of that is valuable and getting us towards the mission of the U, and how much of that is maybe just not valuable. Thirdly, at the end of it, what we really want to do is open up this process to the rest of the IT at the U of M, allow you to contribute, allow you to help build more automations for yourself and for other units where it makes sense, and help you to be able to manage and leverage all of the work we put into organizing units and building those communication channels and building out that reporting, and basically make it self-service to everyone else. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
Thanks, Travis. And up next we have Chris Hurt. Do you want the lavalier or do you want the hand mic?
Hand mic's good.
Talking about one of my favorite topics, which is his army of Twitter bots.
Hi, everyone. There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Hurt. I'm in UIS, but this is not a UIS talk. I want to talk to you about Markov chains. Markov chains have lots of practical applications in fields like linguistics, information theory, computer science. But what I really want to tell you about is that Markov himself, in his early analyses of Markov chains, used them to calculate the probability that a vowel would follow a consonant in the book-length poem Eugene Onegin. He didn't have a computer. This was highly impractical. I was first introduced to Markov chains through spam email. I really admired the algorithm's poetic license as it tried to dodge spam filters. One of my colleagues at the time had studied computational linguistics, and so I asked him, how are they doing this? Markov chains. So 14 years later, I came back to Markov chains. I decided I was going to build Markov Poloff. This is a bot that will tweet Markov chains based on the travels of Marco Polo. So a question you might have right now is, what the heck is a Markov chain? Well, it's a stochastic model describing a sequence of possible events in which the probability of each event depends only on the state attained in the previous event. Okay, but really, what's a Markov chain? So let's compare dice and Scrabble. If you're playing a game of dice and your friend rolls a 4, that has absolutely no effect on the next die roll. That is not a Markov chain. On the other hand, if you're playing Scrabble and your friend plays a Q, the next tile, it's highly probable that it's going to be a vowel and probably a U. That's more like a Markov chain. As a quick demonstration, we're going to generate a random state name based off the inputs Michigan, Minnesota, and Mississippi. I've created a list of each of the characters that appears in the inputs, and then the letters that follow them. So we'll be starting with an M, and chain, 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 chain. We've generated Miganesi, which is a perfectly cromulent state name. Okay, so back to Markov-Poloff. I went to Project Gutenberg, I downloaded the text of the Travels of Marco Polo, and I mentioned here I'm using second-order Markov chains, which means that instead of creating a frequency table of words that follow a given word, I created a frequency table of words that followed a given word pair. And then I attached it to Twitter, and we get things like this. Now, the great thing about this is I've never read the Travels of Marco Polo. I only know the Travels of Markov-Poloff. But I know that any adjacent word pair in this tweet must have appeared in the source text somewhere. So I went to the source text, and I searched for powerful birds, and that, it turns out in the original, referred to Kublai Khan's eagles, which had been trained to attack and capture wolves, which I have to admit is pretty fantastic. But it's no Markov-Poloff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was awesome. And up next, we have our first volunteer, Rebecca Moss. She's going to talk to us about thinking like a writer.
I was really confused because that's not my name.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Wait, what? I'm so sorry.
Then it's all right.
Rebecca Adler. I'm not sure where I got Moss from.
It's okay. Oh, wow. That's a lot louder. Okay, now I don't have to yell. And you might be thinking, well, why would I do that? I'm a tech person. I develop, I do security. But there's a lot of communicating. Basically, everyone's talk today involves some amount of communicating. Whether you're leading up the chain of dog commands or trying to get someone to fund your cool IT event, you have to communicate. And by thinking like a writer, you can more effectively get your point across, hopefully with less words and less arguments. So the thing I want to focus on is called the rhetorical situation. And you can think about that by asking who is talking to whom, about what, how, and why. And those are the 5 pieces that you need to really effectively create any sort of text that you might be creating, whether it's documentation for a product or an email to a boss saying, uh-oh, things are going wrong, we need more money, we need more time. So the things that are involved, who, that's you, that's the writer. That you need to take into account your biases, your lingo, how you're communicating, because those things will all affect the audience and the message that comes out. Next thing is the audience. This is the most important. This is who are you writing to? You're going to write something very different if you're writing to a colleague versus your boss versus documentation that's going to go out into the whole university, the whole world. It's very different. So it's important to take that into account and do an analysis of who you're actually writing for. Next is a message. What are you actually wanting to get across? Are you trying to ask for something? Are you telling someone something? Are you telling them how to do something? It's important to think about what that message actually is, as opposed to just kind of writing. Then context. What is the context of this? Is this going to be something published as print, published online, an email, a Slack message? All these different things will change how you want to write them. And last is the purpose. Why are you writing this? If you don't have an answer to that question, maybe don't bother writing it, which will save you time. But, you know, if you do have a purpose, make sure you understand what that purpose is so that you know, are you doing it for the right reasons and how is your message going to come across? So I hope that that was maybe a little bit of insight into how to think a bit more like a writer and kind of get your message across in the most effective way possible no matter what you're writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca Adler. This is for future Laura. Before we publish these slides, I will fix that. Thank you for stepping up. And then we also have Colin McFadden, who is going to talk to us about IT hiring.
These are really satisfying stares.
And I think it's off again. Yeah.
Hello. The longer I know Chris, the happier I am that he's like fun evil instead of evil evil. Because like, so I somewhere have, oh cool. So I just have two URLs I wanted to share. Both are sort of germane to the conversations going on today. The first came out of Campus CodeFest actually, z.umn/sustainable events, so sustainable-events. If you're organizing an event like this, or maybe a multi-day conference, it's a checklist to help you think about sustainability in planning that event. So it sort of goes nicely with the existing checklist around accessibility and inclusiveness in planning events. So thinking about things like zero waste food, just all of the things that you can do as you're planning an event to make your event a little more green and a little more thoughtful. As someone in CLA put it, there's no Austrian studies on a dead planet. Yeah. The other thing is z.umn.edu/tech-hiring. This is just sort of a Google Doc of some things to think about if you're in the position of hiring a tech position at the U. For a lot of us, that's a fairly rare event. You know, we're not all hiring, 25,000 people for our fake headquarters. Often what we do is we take out our old job description, we dust it off, we repost it, and that results in hiring people that look like the people you hired last time. And so this is just a document to maybe help you think through some other ways to approach hiring, some resources that exist on campus and off campus, some other ways to promote your position to other communities. And both of these are part of an ongoing conversation. We don't have answers for any of this stuff, so if you're interested in either of these topics, reach out on Slack. It's just sort of an ongoing chat we have for those of us who are interested in these things. So cheers. Thanks, y'all.